Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. And we do have beers now because it's lunchtime. We're good.
Cheers.
Right?
It's 11:43, so 5 o'clock somewhere.
There we go. We are still live from Jacksonville, Florida at the Women in HVAC, our conference. Having a blast here, and we just had a random conversation in the hallway with Karen Crnkovich. Karen's been in the industry for 13 years now. She's running a company that has been around for 20 years. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary this upcoming June, January.
Yeah.
There we go. You can correct me. It's okay when I screw up. Yeah.
January.
Perfect. 20 years in January. So really exciting for them. She has been running the business solely for 8 years after she bought out her ex-husband. So definitely going to be a fun conversation. But the thing that really piqued my interest was also Karen is now going to be running for Congress and bringing a blue collar approach to DC, hopefully in the next election. So that's super exciting. We're definitely going to get into that too. And some of your ideas and the issues that you've been seeing in your local government and of course, feeding into the federal government and where they are so out of touch when it comes to local businesses. So Karen, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so delighted to be here, and this is so fun. And thanks for the beer.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for coming on.
Well, why don't you walk us through your journey into the trades, how you got here, what you were doing before, and then now running your business?
Yeah, thank you. So I think a lot of lives are windy roads to the final destination. I started out my career after graduating college in the hotel industry, and I would be the person who would try to convince the women in HVACR planners to come to my hotel. And I lived in 4 different cities over the course of 8 years, including here in Jacksonville, Florida. Nice. So it's a little bit of a homecoming for me because I worked at a hotel that is right down the street and was their director of sales and marketing. I made my way to the Kansas City area and met a boy that's, a common story. And he had just started a heating and cooling plumbing company. And it was the quintessential one guy in a truck. And I was telling a story earlier about how his van was like the 1989 Chevy Vandura, the very first one. And I mean, it was him in this super sketch van and his like 2 customers and that he would go call on. And the thing that I've always appreciated about Don, who was the founder of the company, is he is truly one of the most brilliant technical minds I've ever met. We couldn't go into any building, any restaurant, we'd be sitting there having a nice date night and he'd be looking up at the ceiling and being like, why did they run the ductwork this way? Like you literally could not get him out of that mindset. And the company grew. And as his company grew, my professional career kind of started to hit a little bit of a brick wall. And I was really profoundly unhappy with my last corporate position. So we decided to put all our eggs in one basket. I came on almost 14 years ago. And I did all the book work. I taught myself how to do QuickBooks, and I handled all of our accounting functions. We did payroll on Excel spreadsheets. Pro tip, don't recommend that, guys. Get a payroll company, please. Find one soon. And I would go out and do handshaking and, trying to drum up business. I shadowed him out in the fields and ended up taking the tests to hold the licenses. So in my county, I'm the only woman who holds a master mechanical, master plumbing, and master electrician license because I'm a glutton for really long, hard tests. And then I bought in as the majority owner. So that was 13 years ago. And it was great. We were growing. And then sometimes life happens. And, our relationship just took a little bit of a left turn and I was at a crossroads. And one of the things that I'd continually observed with my company and other companies was this mentality that tradespeople, specifically HVAC and plumbing technicians, didn't really care about anything other than a paycheck and getting hours. Right. And I would ask other owners, hey, what's your mission? What's your vision? Like, tell me about your core values. And universally, this at the time was all men. They would laugh at me and kind of like I'm a little bit on the shorter side. So they'd kind of pat me on the head, figuratively speaking, and be like, oh, you're so cute. And that's really dumb because HVAC and plumbing techs don't care about anything like that. They don't care about vision and mission. And I would go back after those conversations and reflect on that and say, you know what, I think they're wrong. So 8 years ago, when I had the opportunity to buy my founder out, Dawn, I did it. I took a leap. I closed my eyes, and it has been such a interesting and fun journey. There's been a lot of bumps and scrapes along the way with all small businesses, but I'm extraordinarily proud because 8 years later, I can definitively say that I have a company that has a very strong culture, that we have vision, mission, and values that we talk about all the time. They're not platitudes on the wall. We really, truly believe in doing diamond strong, brilliant work. The DMC stands for Diamond Mechanical Contractors. I like to think we have pretty clever and good branding. And it's been fun because we've gotten to a place where when we interview technicians who, while they may be very smart, they're not a good fit for us culturally, we're able to say, hey, you know what? We don't think you're the right fit for us. And so I'm really, really proud of my company and my team. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for them because they're the real heroes of the story, because they took a chance on a girl owner and have stuck around. And I know that they appreciate what I've been able to build, but I did not do it myself.
Well, when you look at coming into now majority owner, when people were like, oh, that's so cute. People don't care about culture, vision, values, those sorts of things. How did you change that narrative within your company?
Great question. So when I signed on the dotted line in March of 2015, I took about 6 months to really reflect, like, okay, this is mine, and not in the kind of Machiavellian, like, oh, it's all mine now, but in the, okay, this is me, this is my company. These people rely on me. And I started thinking, how can I make this shift to where we're going? And I took that 6 months to kind of not necessarily rebrand us. We were always DMC Service, but the original DMC was Don Michael Crnkovich. And, the story I kept telling myself is that can no longer be. This is now the new DMC. And so that's where Diamond Mechanical Contractors came from. And that Christmas at our holiday party, I just revealed everything. I came out with our core values, which are the 4 C's. I came out with our new vision, mission, and vision. And we started just step by step bringing that, into the culture, talking about being diamond strong and doing brilliant work. And it's the kind of thing that you set the expectation, and not everybody is going to agree with it. A lot of people are going to scoff, but the people who do believe in it and the people who do see the vision and understand what I was trying to accomplish, they're still with me today. And that's really cool because they've seen the full kind of 180 of where we were and where we are now. And as we would hire new people, and we don't have 100% track record in hiring, the greatest, the best and the greatest, but we're able to very quickly identify when maybe we've made a misstep or it's not a good fit. And we're able to make those adjustments. But along the way, we've been able to bring people on the team who really do believe in taking pride in our work and being transparent and ethical, of doing the right thing even when it's hard. And so these are the kind of values that we instill in our company. And now we have a team that really truly appreciates it.
Right.
No, when you have that established, it gives you a framework to hire people against, but also when they're not meeting those expectations, to let them go. It allows you to have that framework. I really love. You mentioned your 4 C's.
I knew I would get quizzed on this. Committed, champions. And so each of those little, bullet points underneath, like we value safety and take it seriously. We exhibit enthusiasm for our industry. We used to say we exhibit enthusiasm for our industry. And when the pandemic hit, I looked at my team and I was like, I think the word contagious is a little bit of a hot potato. So we removed that little descriptor from the list and just said we exhibit passion and enthusiasm. But we take care of each other, our community, and our customers.
I love it.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people struggle with this culture part with inside running not just an HVAC or plumbing business, any type of business. It's tough to get culture right, and it sounds like you've done that wonderfully. And the other part, you said the hiring track record, you don't always have the best. Well, guess what? The companies that have the best hiring processes, the best vetting process, still get it right only 70% of the time.
Yeah, well, that makes me feel great because I would say we're probably at like 80% as far as hiring the right people, but that takes time. I mean, this wasn't my success, and especially the past 2 years. So we have been on the Inc. 5000 list 2 years in a row for the fastest growing companies in the country.
Well, congrats.
Thank you. We have a local business magazine that's extraordinary. Shout out to Ingram's magazine. They do a Fast 100 list, and we've been on the Fast 100 2 years in a row. And then this past year, we're a member of the Kansas City Chamber, and we were one of their top 10 small businesses. A lot of people came up to me, they're like, wow, this is so amazing. I was like, it's never an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
It's waking up every single morning, I say a little prayer, I ask for strength and perseverance and going forward. And sometimes you have days where you go forward and you take 3 steps forward. And then you have days where you take 5 steps back, and developing the resilience of continuing to keep going when we make bad hires, when we allow a bad hire to stay along longer than they should be. Those are all lessons that help develop us all, and embracing those lessons and not getting kind of deterred or frustrated by them, I think is really our human story, right? Like not just entrepreneurs, but just understanding that sometimes you're going to have great days and sometimes you're going to have bad days. I'm always trying to be grateful for the great, extraordinary days. And I try to be forgiving and patient through the tough ones.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Well, and resilience is a key thing, right? And so when you talk about those 5 step back days, and not just when it comes to hiring, I mean, running a business, you get a lot of those days. If somebody was feeling like they're always constantly going 5 steps back in their day-to-day in their business, what sort of advice would you give them to get over that?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's such a great question. I would tell them to continue to sometimes you just have to have a little bit of a mental break. And one of the best things that I ever did for myself and my company was every year, twice a year, sometimes it was 3, sometimes it was only once, but every year I would make time for a weekend away. Out of my house, I go get like Airbnb or go to a hotel, or I would, dovetail it with another trip and just spend 2 days like downloading what's working, what's not, what are my goals. And that reset really became a game changer for me and my company, because when you get out of your traditional day-to-day, then creativity really is sparked, and then following up on that. So I'd always tell somebody, even if it's taking half a day, like if you can't do a whole weekend, then do one day. If you can't do one day, then do 4 hours, and just spend time working on your business versus in your business, and really recentering what is not the goal for the end of the day, but what's the goal 5 years from now, and what steps what milestones could you put in place in order to achieve that? And then the second thing is, I am a woman of deep faith. I don't expect everyone always has deep faith, but if you don't believe in a higher power, believe in yourself enough to know that season that you're in, if it's very difficult, will eventually pass. And so oftentimes we give up just when we're on the cusp of breaking through. And so just continuing to wake up and, like I said, say a little prayer and then keep stepping forward, even if the step is 1 step, not 2. There was a time in my company's history back in 2018, where as a leader, I accept the buck stops here, but I allowed our company to bid on 2 jobs. So remember, we are service technicians.
Right.
We are not builders. And yet we were being distracted by shiny objects, which sometimes happens in business. And we bid on 2 construction kind of related projects. And at the time I was like, there's no way we're going to get both of these, because we'd never done something this big or complicated. But if we get one, gosh, that'll be a great boost to our revenues, right? The revenue chase.
Of course.
And by interesting luck, we did get both jobs, and it was like the biggest train wreck, but also the best thing that ever happened to our company. The first job, we broke even. It was, and up until then, we'd been about $1 million company. And this first job was $432,000. So we basically doubled in by the signing of a contract. It was a mess. I learned at that point that service techs aren't installers. Let me repeat that. For those in the back of the room, a service technician is not an installer. And I learned that the hard way. The problem was we'd also won this other contract that was about $300,000. And it came right after the barely breaking even contract. And we lost $100,000 on that job. It was, anything, that's a whole podcast in itself about what we affectionately now call Southland. And it was such a challenge to get through. And my company was literally bleeding money. I was loaning payroll every 2 weeks so that I would make payroll to my company. I was telling guys hey, call me before you buy that part at Home Depot because I may need to give you a different credit card number. Anything that any kind of credit that I could potentially tap into, I was maxing out. And we literally walked to the edge of bankruptcy, and then money started flowing back in, and we kind of got caught up and turned the ship in a positive direction. And from 2018 to 2019, I increased our bottom line profit over 200% because we got very clear about who we were and what we could do and who we weren't. And I also called it the slash and burn budget. If it was not absolutely essential for us to do our work or to survive as a company, we did not buy it. Every chamber, every trade association, we quit, except Women in HVAC, because they had a very affordable, annual renewal that year. But we got very, very, very mindful of how we were spending money. And I'm so proud of that time in the company, even though it was literally the most stressful time that I've ever lived through, because every day I woke up and I was like, I know these technicians, these men and women who work for me are relying on me to be calm, be steady, be positive, even though the world was literally imploding on us. And I have a couple members of my team who were with me during that time, and we laugh now about it, about how crazy things were. And yet I got a PhD in the things to do and not to do as a business owner. I don't regret it for a moment. And it was the hardest thing I ever did. And so that is ultimately what I would tell someone is whatever tough time you're going through, it will define you later on, and you'll be grateful for this really difficult time. You just have to push through it.
Right. And I think a lot of businesses and a lot of people get to that last part, and they just don't go past it. Right. You think about, what happened with you guys losing $100,000, almost going bankrupt, and then pushing through with the slash and burn budget. It's a testament to resiliency. I think of somebody like Nike. And if you listen to Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight story, the amount of times that guy lived on the float and almost lost Nike is unfathomable, but he saw the bigger picture. He kept pushing through and kept persevering, because success is usually right on the other side of that failure or that setback.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the other thing too is success goes like this.
It is
right?
up and down.
It's up and down. It's a roller coaster, right? And there's the one image of the guy that, or it's like a video where he's walking up some steps, and it says success. And there's a trampoline below him. He walks up a few steps. He bounces down. He lands back up. He lands on the steps. He walks up. He bounces down. He lands back up, right? Until he finally gets to the top. And then what does he do? He falls down and bounces back up to the top of the steps, right? And so it's just a testament to that.
So when you're in that moment, that frustration, everything feels like it's falling apart. Nothing feels like it's going right. Where did you find that resiliency to continue to persevere and push through?
My faith. 100%. I pray a lot, but I prayed more in that time than I ever have. And like I said, I understand I try to respect people where they are and what they have in terms of faith in a higher power, whatever it is. You want to pray to trees, go pray to trees. But I know that I would not have been able to get through that time had it not been for literally when my feet would hit the ground in the morning out of bed, I would just be like, thank you, Lord, for another day to fight the good fight. Thank you, Lord, for giving me the the courage and the strength to face whatever I'm going to face today. And, I think that faith in a higher power in my God helped me get through.
Right. Well, and you don't have to be religious to say those things either, right? You don't have to, believe in God. I mean, you can, like you said, trees. You can Pastafarianism if you want to pray to the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, right?
Yeah.
Like that's actually a religion, by the way. It's actually kind of funny. Look it up if you want to.
Okay,
If you want to
I
have a
will
funny
research
read.
that.
It's a funny read. So, but the thing is, it's the things that you tell yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you wake up and if you have that positivity and you're telling yourself those sorts of things over and over and over again, your mind eventually believes in that.
Yeah.
Well, and even Eric Thomas that piped in here and said, "Is it beer 30 yet?" And of course, it absolutely is. It's always beer 30.
Right.
Never a bad time in the day to have a drink.
Nope.
But he had a post earlier this week where he's like, look, the person that you talk with the most is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Be weary of the words that you're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean, Dave Ramsey, I always love his quote. The problem with my money is the idiot that I shave with every morning. Right. The person that you're looking at in the mirror is the one that you need to be boosting up the most.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I am a firm believer of being positive and relentlessly positive, even when in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are just absolutely hundreds and thousands of examples of how, one person and their positive thoughts persevered.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone to question the idea that positivity and faith can't get you through difficult times hasn't really truly given themselves over to positivity and faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
At the beginning, we hinted at the running for Congress.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that's coming
It's
up.
a deal.
As we lead into that, I'm curious because obviously that is a major time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That you will be stepping away from the business to be able to do that.
Yeah.
How did you know and have the confidence that the company is going to continue to do well and succeed and grow and allow you to take this time to step away?
Yeah. So I didn't wake up one day and say, gee, I think it'd be a really fun thing to run for US Congress. I've always participated in the political process. I've been a lifelong voter, especially as a woman. I took it very seriously that women didn't always have the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And it
wasn't even that long ago.
It was 103 years ago that women finally won that right and that opportunity. And so I've always treasured the opportunity to vote. And I think it's a beautiful thing, regardless of who you vote for. I'm always like, go vote. And I took my daughter to the polls when she was little, and I'd, tell her who she would push the button for. And now, I hope I have instilled an idea of lifelong voting in her. But it was about 5 years ago. So as backing up, when I became the majority owner 13 years ago, all of a sudden it really started to click in my mind how frustrating our federal government can be. As a small business owner, you're sitting there trying to make payroll, trying to keep, attract customers and attract the right employees and pay the bills and get paid and deal with insurance and all of these, codes and do things right. And then it felt like the federal government would come in and smack you on one side of the head with this new regulation and on the other side. And it was constant. And it was from my lawyers or my insurance agents or great trade organizations, like the ones that are here in Jacksonville. And they'd be like, okay, watch this new regulation. And I would just sit at my desk and just be like, for the love, doesn't anyone there understand how they have made this 20 times more complicated than it really needs to be? Mm-hmm. Or why are we even doing this? What's the end purpose? And about 5 years ago was when I stopped asking, why isn't there someone there? And I started thinking, well, maybe I should go there, because I believe in advocacy and advocating on behalf of the trades and small business people and, all of the things that people advocate for, across our great nation. But having somebody on the inside who can say, okay, to listen to those who are advocating and to really work alongside of shoulder to shoulder with other men and women who are trying to craft the regulations, I thought, maybe that should be a direction I go. So it was about 5 years ago that I started kind of noodling on this idea. And then I started thinking, always with the end in mind, okay, if I were to do that, what would that look like for my life, for my business? And I started putting pieces into place, and they're still kind of falling into place, but I'm extremely grateful that I have an incredible team that has been very supportive. I told them last fall that this was coming to prepare them, because let's face it, politics can be really ugly. I don't like that part of politics. I wish we weren't that way. And I'm committed to be as positive candidate as I possibly can be. But there's also things that are beyond your control, right? I can't control other people coming at me or, saying whatever they're going to say. I'm not worried about that, though, because I know that Americans are looking for change. They are tired of divisiveness. They're tired of people who are representing us that are career politicians. I'm not a politician. I'm a problem solver. And I want to go to DC because I do believe that we need more common sense. We need more people who are willing to roll their sleeves up and get to work. And we need people who understand what the struggles are of small businesses, of people in the trades, who've understood what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, who understand what it's like to almost go bankrupt because you make a really bad choice as a business decision, and what it's like to have to claw back from that. And also what it's like to put together policies that could make things more beneficial, not more difficult.
I love it.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, but you're right. I mean, it's the change and the steady hand. And you look at something called, Ray Dalio had the book, Principles for a New World Order, I think it is. And he talks about the 6 stages of economic cycle. And, and if you read it, it's a really long book. I mean, I listened to it on Audible and it was really good, but he talks about, the U.S. kind of going into that brink of that 6th stage, and to be able to walk that back takes a leader that can actually bridge the divide. And that's, and they're seeing it right now. And so if you can actually take that back, and I don't think the current leaders that are in place can bridge that divide. There's one previously, I won't get into names because I don't want to, put that on there, that I think could have continued to do it. And when you have that power, that's really what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, I'm definitely not I don't want to go to DC because I want to be a lifelong politician. In fact, I want to be the opposite of a lifelong politician. I want to be somebody who lights the candle in the dark room, who gives people a reason to believe that government can be different, that we can, our great keynote this morning was talking about all of the problems that we have in our society with immigration, with foreign policy, with overspending at an absolutely absurd and alarming rate. And we need people who can go there and say, listen, I'm going to put the outrage Olympics of, trying to get more Twitter followers or, be a talking head on cable news aside. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because I do believe, and I know that there are good people there that are trying to do good work, but there's just not enough of them to break through. And if we had one more person who had some common sense and was willing to, stand up in the face of adversity. Most of my conversations with particular people in my district right now kind of start out with, listen, we're not going to agree on 100% of things. We're just not. Like, I'm sure the two of you don't agree on 100% of things. I'm sure you don't agree with your spouse as 100%. I would tell somebody, if you agree 60% or more, you should probably marry them.
I just go with yes, dear, all the time.
Yeah. Well, okay. See, but if we can agree, if we can find the common ground, the 70 or 80% of things that we do agree on, let's agree that we have a border issue. Let's agree that we are spending it at an alarming rate, and then put this, 20 to 30% of things we don't agree on kind of on the back burner for a bit and focus on what we can change rather than fighting over the 20% of things and trying to convince people that we're right or they're wrong or whatever that looks like. Then we're not getting anything accomplished, but we can get things accomplished if we start finding the commonalities. And as a business owner and a nonprofit leader in my community, that's one thing that I have had experience with is diverse points of view and then trying to find the commonalities so that we can move forward. And I have experience as a problem solver. One of the things that we haven't even touched on that I'm also really proud of is that, yes, we are commercial service company. However, we never say no to residential customers that somehow find their way towards us. Mm-hmm. It's great training ground for our guys. It's great word of mouth. And over the years, I saw a problem in my community where there would be homeowners who literally could not afford the most basic of repairs. And the first time that this happened was there was a very young family with a new baby, and it was very cold winter. You Canadians might say, well, Kansas City winters aren't cold. I get that. I hear you. But it was cold for Kansas City, and their furnace was broken. And I mean, this was probably 8-9 years ago. And my technician called me and he's like, listen, they're not going to want to do the repair because they can't afford it. And I'm like, well, what are we talking about? And he's like, it's a fan motor. It's probably $350 to repair it. Back then, 8 years ago, not today. And I was like, and he started telling me, he's like, yeah, they just want to go get some space heaters. I was like, absolutely not. Not today. Not today, Satan. And I told him, I was like, just fix it and tell the family that we say Merry Christmas and God bless. And it really made me think like, wow, they couldn't afford $300 to fix the furnace so that they could have heat. That's a problem. So fast forward, in 2019, I co-founded a nonprofit in the Kansas City area called Strong Homes, Strong Families. And we provide zero cost critical repairs to homeowners in need. Wow. We put on pause during the pandemic, and then we sat our board and started doing our first projects a year ago today. And we have been changing lives for, single moms, for grandmother. One of the, all the stories touch my heart. A single mom with a 6-year-old daughter doesn't have a working furnace, so she opens up her oven to heat her home. Absolutely not. We were able to pull together resources from generous vendors and generous other partners in the trades to get this mother not just a new furnace, but a new complete HVAC system. There was a single mom of 4 who had her sewer line backing up every time she did laundry. Okay, so those of you who are parents, you know that if you have 1 kid, you're doing laundry literally every day. But 4, you're doing it like every hour. And to have sewage backing up in her basement, and she was describing how when it would, get backed up, she'd put it in like a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket, and then about every day carry the bucket of sewage out into her yard. And so we were able to get them relief by jackhammering up their floor and finding a bad connection. And now mom can do laundry without her house backing up with sewer. Making these small steps towards making a difference in just one person's life is so satisfying. And as a member of Congress, I would hope that I would be able to make a difference in not just one person's life, but multiple people's lives by helping to craft legislation that makes sense, to fixing the big problems that we have in spending, immigration, boosting up the trades, all of the problems that we have. But we've got to have people who are willing to roll their sleeves up and do the hard work.
Right. Yeah. Wow. The unfortunate thing is common sense ain't so common no more.
Right.
Common sense is definitely not common.
No, that's fantastic.
Well, as we, because in the essence of time, I know we could probably keep going.
We could go all day, I'm sure.
We could go all day, I'm sure. I mean, hey, we got a whole bucket full of ice, or a bucket full of ice and beer.
You can invite me back for part 2.
Right, part two with more beer. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for asking. I'm so glad you did. I am looking for support from people in the trades, for people who want change in government. And you can go to my campaign website, which is www.kcforca Kansas.com. You can sign up to just follow along and get emails. You could make a donation because let's face it, campaigns are really expensive. And in order to break through, you must have money. So I am not bashful about asking for any donations, any amount. It all matters. It all helps. And then my company, DMC Service, is only based in Kansas City area. But if you happen to be in the Kansas City area and you're looking for a great contractor who has really strong culture, core values, and do good work for you, it's dmcserviceinc.com.
Perfect. And you have a 25 for 25 campaign going, or you want 25 people to donate $25. So
yes.
24 now, because we'll donate $25 to your cause as well.
Thank you.
So you can find that at kc4kansas.com. And if you do want to reach out and get in touch with her, her email is karen@kc4kansas.com. And we'll put all of these in the show notes for after as well, for everybody to be able to find out. So as we wrap up, we do have one final question here for you. Oh, it's our patent and trademark question. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
Oh my gosh, I wish I'd have been prepped for this, you guys. Oh, what do I wish people would ask me, but don't? The interesting thing is as you probably have perhaps caught on, I'm a pretty open book. And I think because of that, people aren't afraid to ask me questions. And I get a lot of very interesting ones. But if someone were to ask me what question they haven't asked, it would be, I don't even know. I mean, you've really stumped me. And that is not easy feat. Ask me about my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She's technically my stepdaughter, and I'm sure she's not hearing this right now. And I don't know if she ever will, but ask me about how the difference between loving someone who you did not give birth to versus somebody that you did, and how there really is no difference. And for all of the step parents out there that are doing an extraordinary job loving kids that weren't theirs, I salute you.
Awesome. That is I wouldn't know how that would even, go. Cause I mean, I got two boys myself, that are mine, but it's when you take that time to invest into their success, they become a true part of you. So
I'm extraordinarily blessed.
yes. All right. Well, I think that should be all for today. That was a wrap. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of great information that you shared, great stories, great struggles, great triumphs, and good luck. And we'll hopefully see you in the U.S. Congress at the next election.
Thank you very much. Shout out. Just remember, when I get elected, you all will have a friend in the trades in D.C.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.